Next guest, Mr. Bill Thomas. Bill is the Vice President of Governmental Relations at Hampton University. And our topic of conversation today is Hampton's Proton Therapy Institute, their cancer research program. So, Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I am very, very lucky to be in company of you two young lady and young man. I really appreciate you talking about some things that are very, very important. So I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure you know, but the Virginia Film Festival is happening right now, and I believe they showed a film on yesterday or maybe Friday about the rise of the HBCUs. So I'm sure that you all were mentioned in that.
On Friday night.
Yeah.
Hopefully so. Yes, hopefully so. We're trying to do a good job up here, and any good mention is always helpful to our cause.
That's right. So tell us about your program.
Well, it's a very, very unique program. Sometime back, 2006, 2007, Dr. Harvey had a alum talk to him about cancer, and it's a new, exciting telemedicine, telehealth, and I know that Charles is involved in that as well, and precision medicine that was technologically advanced that could kill cancer cells while not harming healthy tissue.
Wow. Okay.
So Dr. Harvey did his investigation, created a committee, and in the year we came up with a decision to go forward. And the good thing and bad thing about it is innovative. We were the fourth Proton Cancer Institute in America starting out. We were ahead of Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, everybody. MD Anderson, we were just out there doing it, but we had to raise $250 million to get it started. And we were able to do that under Dr. Harvey's leadership. We successfully did that. And then we went on to get our Proton Center open in 2010 and our first patient in 2011.
Okay.
And we have been going thus far. We've saved over 2,100 lives thus far and going forward. But let me just tell you.
I'm sorry, you saved how many lives?
Excuse me?
You said you saved how many lives?
Over 2,100 lives.
Wow.
Thus far.
Wow.
Yeah. 2,100. But the incidence of cancer, according to the Virginia Cancer Program, will outproduce population growth in Virginia for the next 25 years. And that's according to a study by the University of Virginia, Walter Cooper Center for Public Service.
Okay.
Virginia will see more than 70,000 cases of prostate cancer, almost 60,000 cases of breast cancer, and 64,000 cases of lung cancer by 2020. And in the black community, it's a plague.
Okay.
Cancer is now the leading cause of death in Virginia. In the black community, the death rate of blacks is more than double the rate set for white Virginians. According to a study by Men's Health, Suffolk and Richmond and Norfolk are number 2 and 13 in the country with regard to prostate cancer. In the state, with Richmond, is number 2 of all the large cities in America with prostate cancer. With Petersburg catching up really, really quickly.
Do we know why
really
those?
Have an issue.
Well, I just have a question about why those numbers are so high. Like, what is it? Hereditary? Is it our food? Is it what's happening to make those numbers be so high?
So far, what we've looked at, the first thing is access. And I'll get back to telemedicine, telehealth to explain why that's going to be a great benefit to a lot of folks in our society.
Okay.
In Virginia, in Norfolk and in Petersburg, especially like in Portsmouth, our communities were built on old property that they were building and chipping paint. And then these affected lands were then turned over and housing projects were built on them.
Okay.
Similar to some of the things that happened with housing projects in Charlottesville, if you look back in the history.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is environmental. A lot of it is diet, because as we recovered from slavery, we ate all the scraps. We made everything work that they wouldn't give us access to for decent food. The environment that we lived in, and then the education, and then the lack of medical professions in our community. So if you combine all of those things together, that is why it is a horrific plague in our communities.
Okay. Can you give us some pros and cons of proton therapy versus conventional therapy?
the simplest part of it is the fact that there's a new wave of technology that's afoot now. Right now, the way you traditionally take care of cancer is, in effect, burn you with radiation, poison you with chemo, or cut you with surgery.
Yeah, because people are deathly sick for, weeks after they go in for radiation.
Yes, that is correct. Mm-hmm. With proton cancer therapy, you go in, you get your diagnosis completed, then your treatment lasts maybe 2 minutes, and then the treatment of the proton beam is targeted directly on the cancer cell itself. Mm-hmm. And all of the power of the proton beam is released on that cancer cell, and it destroys the cancer cells without harming healthy tissues. Mm-hmm. So if you're a woman, what would happen is, say you had cancer around your heart. If you took traditional radiation, it would harm all of your healthy organs that will be in that pathway. Mm-hmm. With proton therapy, it would not. It would target it. Mm-hmm. So you would not be that. And also, as you have mentioned, you can get up after the treatment and go back to work, go play golf, go to the movies, go swimming, go on with your normal life. And with traditional, and it's not in all cases, you don't have that happen chance.
Right.
Wow, that is huge. That is huge.
So staying on this cutting edge technology to be able to do that, like, do you face any particular challenges with your?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, because Dr. Harvey was so ahead of the curve of this, even with UVA and VCU, we got what we call a certificate of public need to service the entire Commonwealth. In effect, what that says is that no one else could open up another proton therapy institute in Virginia without going through that process.
Okay.
Most people were throwing cold water on our idea because they figured out how could a little black school that didn't have a medical school would be able to do this. But if you get into medicine now, and a lot of the medical students from UVA come up to our facility at True-Ridge, it's not so much about biology and chemistry as it is about physics. You want to try to figure out what are these genes doing and how can you affect them so that you can either destroy the cancer cell or eliminate it at the very beginning by going into genomics to make sure that you really understand the structure of the cell, where all this stuff begins and where it all ends, so that you can even more highly target cancer cells in their very, very early stages.
I see. Okay.
So at the end of the day, if you were diagnosed with cancer and proton therapy cancer treatment was your option, you would literally be, in my judgment, foolish to do anything else because of the helpful non-harming of healthy tissues that proton therapy does, and the other thing. But as well as that, no one could just figure out how did we do this? How could we be ahead of MD Anderson? How could we be ahead of Johns Hopkins and Georgetown and the Mayo Clinic? It was just pure leadership.
Right.
We have a facility that's not connected to a hospital, and we got a lot of pushback on that. But this is an outpatient service. Mm-hmm. And then you don't want to have all the rules and regulations and policy and costs to associate with the hospital because we can bring the service in at a lower cost by not having to provide the whole infrastructure that the hospital brings with it, with cost and all the other things that go along with it.
I see. So with that said, Mr. Thomas, we're going to take a quick break. Again, family, we're speaking with Bill Thomas, Vice President of Governmental Relations at Hampton University, discussing Hampton's Proton Therapy Program, okay? Proton Therapy Institute, excuse me. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to continue this conversation. All right, family, we're back. You're tuned into In My Humble Opinion on 101.3 Jams, and we are speaking with Bill Thomas. Before we get back into that interview, I do want to mention we have another pair of tickets for the play Justice on Trial, okay? Black Lives Matter 2. So here's the deal, though. You need to call at the break. Now, what that means is that there's music playing, okay? A break is considered when there's music playing. So phone number 434-422-9101. All right. So again, we're speaking with the Vice President of Governmental Relations at Hampton University, talking about their cancer research program. Now, I believe Charles had a question for you, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Thomas, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Lewis, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. On sort of a personal career note, besides being here at the radio station, thank you for the mention of telemedicine. And I definitely want you to get a little deeper into that. But in that same vein, I wanted to know what community partners have you been reaching out to, if any, in regards to improving that access that you mentioned. Since we don't always have access to the best health care or best groceries in some of our neighborhoods. What are your ideas there for bridging that gap? And it also includes the telemedicine piece. Who have you been working with to try to build that out?
Thank you. Those are both great questions. And that's been one of the most disappointing aspects of my involvement with this. My mom died of respiratory cancer. My father died of prostate cancer. My sister had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And a loved one had teratoid breast cancer with surgery. So in our family, like in a lot of African-American families and white families as well, have really suffered with this. Mm-hmm. The huge disappointment that we've had is that we have not been able to get the General Assembly to support this investment that Hampton has made, our $250 million investment. Mm-hmm. They have not funded this technology, and we're just confounded as to why not. And it's just so horribly disappointing that this has happened because, number one, it is something that's vitally important to all Virginia because, as I indicated, according to the Virginia Department of Health, cancer is now the number one cause of death in Virginia, mm-hmm. and it's going to double in cities like Bedford County. They're going to see a 49% increase over the next 10 years. Cities like metropolitan areas like Fairfax County, Virginia Beach, Chesterfield, and Rycord expect to see more new cancer rates this decade than ever before. And the highest percentage increases is expected to take places like in Spotsylvania, James City, and Halifax County. It is horrible. But what we're doing now is going on programs like this program, that's reaching out not only to the old, but to the young and millennials and others, so that they can understand this. There's two things that could happen. The one thing is just through education. If we did our diets right, exercise right, ate the right kind of food, and eliminated some types of things from our diets, mm-hmm. the cancer rate in our communities would decrease 50% overnight mm-hmm. to start that process. So that's huge. The other part with telemedicine, telehealth, that we have been working with the VA and with UVA and with DCU. Again, the Virginia General Assembly funded them about $2 billion a year to start their telemedicine program, and they have given Hampton University a zero. And that's very, very disappointing. We're not hating on the state supporting UVA and VCU. Right. We're just dumbfounded as to why they're not supporting us. And the reason why, Charles, the telemedicine, telehealth is so critical, as you'll know, that in remote areas in the Commonwealth, mm-hmm. in the western part of the state, and in some of our communities, we don't have health care clinics. Right. Or hospitals that are available to our people and other folks on the other side of the Commonwealth. Yeah. So with telemedicine and telehealth programs, and since this is so highly technologically advanced, you can literally take a handheld computer mm-hmm. and robotics out to the patients and then do all the workup on their diagnostics so that they'll know what the condition of their cancer is or any other illness that they might have, mm-hmm. but particularly cancer because you can't wait for that. Then that brings access, better access. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is, number one, engage all the communities to understand that they should do that where you don't have access in some of the urban areas in the Commonwealth and, of course, in some of the most remote areas. And telemedicine, telehealth is exactly the instrument that can bring the relief to that area.
Hey, so Mr. Thomas, so let me ask you, though, and you can feel free to decline if this is too much of a political question, but are you truly dumbfounded as to why an HBCU may not get as much support? You know, could being an HBCU have anything to do with that, you think?
Yes, it has everything to do with it.
Okay.
And we got to fight through it. Yeah. And I don't look for blame or anything. I'm always looking to build bridges. We want win-win situations. Yeah. But the technologies that we're bringing forth, and the fact that we spend not the state's money, we spend $250 million of our own money, and we still have close to a $300 million endowment. Mm-hmm. You would think that the state would promote that and the technology advances that it's bringing and connecting it with the telemedicine, telehealth program, because those are the key core components that's going to make our community healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, and one of the things that was mentioned on Friday during the documentary, Tell Them We Are Rising, in regards to the HBCUs, they did mention on how we need more of our own capital. You know, the graduates, the alumni, taking that responsibility of really going back and supporting the HBCU. So I think about that, and I think about community organizations, that may have a focus that can help raise the funds and raise the awareness and things like that. Any thoughts there? As far as some community groups or alumni?
Mm-hmm. And I was listening to your conversation with regard to the music and LJ Cool, who I love. You guys are too young for him. Yes. But the one thing that I did like from the conversation, and I've never heard the song before, Jam Wake Me Up by Rami. I'm going to go get that and listen to it. But that reminds me of Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. It's just a more productive, younger version of that.
There you go.
But we have to wake up. Money is good. Making money, like I guess they said in that one movie they made some time ago, that greed can be good if it's utilized correctly. But at the same time, we have to list our priorities to understand that if we don't have a healthy community, then we're always going to be stuck in the middle of the road or at the end of the ditch, because that is where things begin, education and health. So we have to start singing songs or getting the word out in younger folks' language to understand that it's what you eat, where you live, how you live your life can save your life. So I just think that whole communication advocacy is very, very important, and that's why I was so anxious to be able to spend a few moments on your program today.
Okay. Now, for the individuals out there who may be able to benefit from your program, can you share how they can get in touch with you? And for that matter, anyone that's listening that may wish to donate?
Sure. Here's what we're going to do. The easiest thing to do is you can do, if you're online, it's just the Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute of Cancer. It'll come up.
Okay.
The easiest number to do is to call 757-727-5310. That's 757-727-5310. And that's my direct line.
Okay.
And I get hundreds of calls a week with people that just have questions. The most important thing for all of our people, this is black, white, Native Americans, or whatever, is that if something starts going on with your body, you need to go to the doctor. You need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the health clinic. And you need to find out what's going on, because if you catch this time, you will be able to live. And you might be able to do it just by changing some lifestyle things. And that's so important. But they can contact me, Bill Thomas, at Hampton University at 757-727-5310, or this your program is podcast. My email is Bill, Bill, .Thomas, THOMAS, at HamptonU, HAMPTONU.edu. I'm an advocate for this. I go out and talk to veterans and churches, communities, and everyone about this, because it is just so important that we save our lives and get this menace out of our community that will make our community so much more healthier.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for our time. Is there any final words you'd like to leave the community with?
No, I just think that I think your program is wonderful. I think that you should continue to talk the way you guys are looking at what's important, set good high priorities, understand that our communities, our HBCU communities, are doing things. And actually, Charles, we are coming up with a drug that can enhance the possibilities of proton therapy in a research project with the University of Virginia. And so we have to partner, we have to reach out, and we have to interconnect with everybody. But again, you guys just stay high on getting good news and positivity out in the community, and let us help where we can. We look forward to that anytime we may be alone.
So let's make sure that we stay in touch off air then, sir, and we can definitely work on strengthening that partnership between Hampton and UVA.
We definitely would like to do that.
All right.
Congratulations to your second year of your program, and continue to go forward with it. And I'm listening now. I've got it on my computer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, family. That was Mr. Thomas over at Hampton University sharing, infinite information there. So hopefully it can help somebody listening, right? That's the goal.